What is going on, guys? Johnny Turnblade here, back with some more Elder Scrolls Legends news. Today, as part of E3, Bethesda, Direwolf, and the Elder Scrolls Legends team revealed 5 new cards. As of the recording of this video, they may have sneaked a couple more out, but 5 new cards, one of each color, all legendary so far. So I wanted to go over some of these cards in case you guys haven't already seen them, and think about, I guess, existing cards, how they would interact and work with some of these new cards. Obviously, there's going to be so many other synergies we're not covering because they said over 150 new cards, so there's no way we can anticipate all of those synergies, but we can kind of look at these cards as a predicted power level in general, as well as how they're going to compare to some of the things that we currently have going on. So I'm going to start with the green reveal, and they're going to appear on the screen. I'm going to be kind of peeking at my phone back and forth just to kind of go over what's going to be happening with these cards. But the first thing we're going to be going over is Brinol, or Brinol. Please correct my pronunciation if I'm way off. He is a 5-cost 4/4 unique legendary. He comes with Drain, and whenever a friendly creature pilfers or drains, you gain +1 max magic of this turn. This kind of buffs up 2 decks that come to mind. One is the Health Gain Monk deck that we've been trying to work on that hasn't really been turning out too well. But the other one is Pilfer Monk. I think Pilfer Monk finally has enough tools with the introduction of Brinol and maybe a couple other cards to really start pulling off some pretty sick strategies. When you have things like Cut Purse as a 2-drop, Brinol comes out on turn 5. If you potentially have a couple of these guys on the board, a Skulk, a Cut Purse, Bandari Bruiser, and then even the Drain cards from Monk, like Chandal Sapper, the Spriggan, as well as Giant Bat, things like that. So I think you could see Pilfer Monk becoming Pilfer Health Gain Monk as a thing. And I think that this card could have pretty devastating effect with that deck, especially if by some chance you have Master of Thieves, should be dual cost. If you manage to get one of these babies out on turn 4, and let's say you have something with, like if you have your Cut Purses out, you attack twice. If you play Brinol on 5, you're getting 2 more max magic of that turn, plus whatever other creatures you already had out. So there's so much power in terms of being able to just get tons of stuff onto the board with this card. I definitely think it's an incredibly powerful card, very interesting card as well. And I think it's an interesting design space, especially when you combine it with something like, I guess I don't have one of those, crafting menu, the Torval Crook, the 4 Magicka charge creature. If you get this out with a Master of Thieves, you're getting 2 max Magicka for the charge, and then another +1 max Magicka from Brinol. So if you have Master of Thieves out with this card and Brinol, you're getting +6 max Magicka just from swinging this thing twice. So there's some incredibly awesome combos I think that can go down. I think you could really see Pilfer Monk becoming Pilfer Health Gain Monk and becoming, I would say, somewhat viable. I think they're finally getting enough tools to kind of meld together in that sense. So super excited about that one. The next one we're going to cover is the College of Winterhold. We have up on the board here. It is a 5-cost support. The way it works is the first time you use it, you're going to have a Discover effect. It's going to show 3 1-cost actions, and you're going to choose one of those. And then the next time you use it, that cost will be increased by 1. So if you use it the second time, 2 costs, Discover an action, and then third time, Discover a 3-cost action. Places I think that this card could be useful is in Action Assassin. I don't think the power level in Action Assassin is going to be super high. Paying 5 for a support could be a little iffy, but Action Assassin definitely appreciates cheap action, so being able to grab a 1 and 2 cost action, maybe not so much the 3, but the 1 and 2 cost action could really help Action Assassin along and really allow you to do some pretty awesome things there. And I guess the 3 cost could pull you a raiding party or something, which could have some synergy with Monk. But in general, I think Action Assassin is going to be wanting to go for the 1 and 2 cost actions. And then there is, I think he's in this color, this guy, Tower Alchemist. Your supports with activate abilities have unlimited uses. So if somehow, some way, incredibly unlikely, but if you get this guy to stick onto the board with the College of Winterhold support, you can go past that 3 because your support's not going to get destroyed. So you're going to go 3 cost action, 4 cost action, 5 cost action. And once you get to like 4 cost action, you have a chance of pulling Lightning Bolt. 5 cost action, you have a chance of pulling Javelin. 4 cost, you also have a chance of pulling Edict of Azura. So if you manage to get this guy, and even just to push the College of Winterhold to 4 cost, even if it just is for 1 turn, I think that the value it starts generating is going to become pretty ridiculous. And then any time after that, the card just becomes insane. So I think the card is fair and balanced at 5 costs for a 1, 2, and 3 cost action. And I think there's a lot of decks that may want to use it. But if you happen to go for Mage and get Tower Alchemist out there, I think the card can go from really good to just absolutely ridiculous. We'll do a quick little look-see at some of the 1-cost actions that are available. Intimidate, obviously not something you're going to want to see. Rapid Shot is a fantastic 1-cost action. I'm only going to really go through the 1-cost actions. Everything else, I guess, can be viewed. Firebolt, I think, is the only 1-cost action here. That's another excellent one. So we're 2 out of 3 with awesome actions so far. Execute, and Imprison, and Scouting Patrol. These aren't that great, especially considering by the time turn 5 rolls around, you're probably not going to want to be getting an Execute. Imprison could be useful if you're playing Mage, I guess. And Scouting Patrol, not so much. Maybe in a Spell Sword list, but you couldn't even do that because that colors doesn't match up. So really, I think Imprison is the only one you're really going to be wanting from 1 cost in yellow, and even that's a fringe case, only if you're playing Mage. Arrow to the Knee, not fantastic. Shadow Shift is absolutely awesome, though. But Arrow to the Knee could come in handy to buy you some time at some point. We got nothing from purple, and then nothing from neutral. So I would say I'd say more than half the 1-cost actions are going to be good in all cases. And then the other half are all situational 1 costs. And then you go from there onto the 2 costs, and I think there's a little more variance once you go up to 2 costs, but there's a lot of really good cards out there. Anytime you have a card like this, you're paying 5 costs, which is kind of hefty, but it's generating a lot of card advantage. You're getting 3 cards from 1, so you wind up +2, assuming that the support doesn't get destroyed by the time you're finished using it. So you're generating pretty solid card advantage. You're generating not only actions, which are always useful, but you're generating potentially actions from outside your colors, which could definitely create some kind of flexibility for you, and or open up some plays that may not have been what you were planning. There's just like, if you're playing something, if you're running College of Winterhold, you have to be running blue anyway, but if you're running something like Mage, and you really need to ping something down, getting Rapid Shot for extra draw is actually increasing that card advantage even more. There's going to be plenty of situations like that available. The next card we're going to be going over is an 8-cost action. It's a legendary action, non-unique though. This is the first non-unique we're going to be going over. It's called A Land Divided. And your options are either fill the left lane with Stormcloak Aggressors, or fill the right lane with Colovian Troopers. So this one's a little bit vague of a card just because we don't know what Stormcloak Aggressors are. I've seen some guesses, I guess, on Twitter and on the subreddit, predicting them to be 2/2s like the Colovian Troopers, but 2/2s with charge instead of guard. But I think that'd be a little bit too much. That would give yellow, a card with not much reach at all, the ability to just have 8 damage straight from hand, which would be a little ridiculous. I think the more so goal of this card is to kind of introduce more viability to token strategies. I mean, either way, you're filling a lane with pretty powerful tokens. So I think some of the lesser common suggestions that I've seen on Twitter, something like 2/2 with Breakthrough, or 3/2 with Breakthrough, or 3/1 with Breakthrough, something like that. If they're going to have charge, I think they'd have to be like 1/2s or something like that, or 1/1s, maybe even, but that'd be 4 Nord Firebrand, so that wouldn't be really, they'd be kind of redundant. I don't know if that'd really be a thing. But I definitely think if it's going to have charge, they have to have 1 attack. I think 2 attack with charge would be too much for an entire lane, but I could be proven wrong. I guess that might be where the 8-cost action comes in. But the other thing that I think that this card could be somewhat decent at doing, apart from a token strategy, which is where I think it's going to be at its best, because you have the option of either being the aggressor in the left lane or putting 4/2/2 walls, much like you see with General Tullius or with Midnight Sweep, filling the right lane with those as a defensive measure. So apart from the token synergy that the card obviously has, I think it could be useful in Control Monk, giving it a late game action that kind of slows you down even more, if by some chance you are Control Monk. But there's probably other, like, Control Monk's going to want to be running Eclipse Baroness, so this card, Control Monk might not love this card as much, but it might open up other control strategies using willpower. Maybe give Control Crusader a little bit more in terms of things that it wants to do in the 7 or 8 drop slot, something like that. It could actually go both ways, and this honestly could even potentially, depending on how the Stormcloak aggressors wind up, if they do wind up with charge or if they wind up with something else, this could find its way into some aggressive Crusader lists or other more aggressive, maybe even aggressive mage lists as a 1 or 2 of, just in case the game hits turn 8, keep it around kind of card. Super aggressive lists usually don't want to run many things past 5 or 6 cost, but they may be able to make an exception for something like this, just as potential for late game finisher, depending on how those Stormcloak aggressors really wind up being. But a lot of the card and its viability and stuff like that is going to depend on what those Stormcloak aggressors wind up being, as well as any other synergies that token strategies wind up with. And I'm interested. This card seems to be the most underwhelming so far, that and the College of Winterhold, but as an ability to get 4/2/2 guards in one lane, it could potentially buy you that extra turn that you need to kind of try and pull off victories. So the next one that we want to go to is one that, since the Skyrim details leaked in the Datamind files months ago, a card that people have been talking about for a while, and that's Ulfrick Stormcloak. And his ability, he has a 5/6/5 with Breakthrough, so he's already overstated for his cost, which is pretty nice. And his ability is whenever you play a Shout, draw a random Nord from your deck. So there's a couple things we have to touch here. The first thing that I want to touch on is the draw random Nord. I saw some people on the subreddit on Twitter talking about, oh no, we're heading towards RNG Stone. The word random appears on the card. But I think there's a pretty distinct qualifier here that people need to keep in mind. The card says from your deck. So you're not going to be able to pull cards that you're not playing. So if there's some random super 12 cost Nord that you normally don't want to put in your deck because it's too greedy, you're not going to randomly get him for free from Ulfrick. It has to be something you're playing, and I think that's where random elements are much more acceptable, where the biggest benefit for the most part of Ulfrick is you're going to be thinning your deck, but you also have the added benefit of pulling a Nord from your deck. And I saw some people saying I don't want to see games being decided by whether I pull a certain Nord or not, but if you're playing that many Nords, you shouldn't be relying on pulling a certain Nord with Ulfrick for your victory. If you're relying on pulling something from that, at that point you're already kind of, I would say, pretty far gone. But I do want to touch on the amount of Nords we have in the game right now. There's a lot of really, really good Nords right now, and I could see with a little bit more support, some sort of Nord-centric deck happening. There's obviously the Nord Firebrand. So if you're playing Ulfrick and you want to draw these for something like a Merrick Battle Mage deck, and you haven't drawn them yet, you could just use Ulfrick and some Shouts to pull those out. And then there's a bunch of other great cards in here. Mighty Allies, if you play a mostly red deck, a 6/3 that's happening. Mage Slayer is just a great card. Rift and Pillager is decent. Fearless Northlander, I think, could see more play now that you can kind of ensure that you pull him out, and I think he's a better card than he usually gets credit for. Obviously, one of the biggest things, the only other Nords you're playing in your deck are Relentless Raiders, when you play Shout with Ulfrick, you're going to guarantee pulling Relentless Raiders from your deck. So that could be pretty fantastic there. Trebuchet is a Nord card, I had no idea. And then the other thing that you'll probably see people drawing most often with Ulfrick is Markarth Bannerman and Triumphant Jarl. This, obviously, again, more for either token or Merrick Battle Mage lists. And then Triumphant Jarl, being able to pull... The toughest thing about Triumphant Jarl at times is a lot of times when you are ahead on health and you need him, he doesn't show up. So if you have something like Ulfrick and you are ahead on life, you could just blast your shout out and guarantee draw a Triumphant Jarl, which is pretty fantastic. And then going across these colors, there's so many good cards. If the only Nord in your deck besides Ulfrick is Marok, you can guarantee you draw Marok when you use a shout. Other great cards, Eastmar's Crusader for draw, Morthal Executioner if you're going super aggressive, Hofengar Marauder if you're being aggressive. When I first looked at Ulfrick, I was like, alright, draw a Nord, like, whatever, but there are so many good Nords. You can guarantee draw a Tyr, although you might not want to, because getting him from Prophecy is always better, but still. You can guarantee draw your Rift Thane. You can guarantee draw Astrid. There are so many good Nords in this game, and I didn't even realize it. So I think Ulfrick has the potential to be a really, really powerful card. Obviously, the thing to discuss when it comes to Ulfrick is, in order to trigger his effect, he has to A, be on the board, which isn't an issue. He's only 5 cost, you can get that out relatively easily. But B, you have to play a shout. You get a Nord from your deck with each shout you play. So even if shouts aren't that great, it might be worth it just to be guaranteeing pulling cards from your deck, thinning your deck, pulling creatures guaranteed, stuff like that. Ulfrick may be worth it. But where I think his power level could be kind of skyrocketing is depending on the power level of the shouts. If shouts are really, really good cards, and you have something like Ulfrick and you're playing a shout that you want to play anyway, like if a shout is good enough to be played on its own, let's say, again, that we're just going to throw numbers out here, it's not to say that these are real, but let's say there's a shout that's similar to a lightning bolt, or a fire bolt. You play the shout, you 2 damage to a creature. Pretty often you're going to have potential to kill a creature with that shout. So it's a shout you're going to want to play anyway, especially if it gets upgraded to 4 damage and then 5 damage, whatever. But you play that shout, you're going to want to play it anyway because it's a really good card. But then you combine it with Ulfrick, so you play a card you wanted to play anyway, and then you have the added benefit of not only thinning your deck, but pulling, if not a random Nord, you can even target the Nord from your deck. There's some fantastic potential there. Imagine a Crusader list that the only Nords are Marok, 3 Hofengar Marauder, and Tyr, or something like that. You play a shout with Ulfrick, you're pulling a really, really good legendary card. You could potentially only be pulling legendary cards with Ulfrick. It's mind-blowing. I didn't think I thought the card was good, but not great. But now as I'm talking about it, I think the card is just, it's kind of ridiculous. I think as of right now, we're obviously incredibly early. We still have 140-something cards to find out about. But I think Ulfrick has early grasp on potential best card in this new expansion title. He definitely could be laying a stake to that, but obviously that depends on how good the shouts wind up being. And then the last card, and there's a reason why I saved this card for last, the last card we're going to be talking about is the Skeletal Dragon. Now, not only because I love dragons, not only because I'm Dragon Tamer Blade, but this card is so cool. First of all, the art is ridiculous. It looks absolutely fantastic. But Skeletal Dragon is a non-unique legendary, 8-cost, 5/5 guard dragon, with the effect that it gives all creatures currently in your discard pile a permanent +2/+2 boost. And then its last gasp, it draws a random creature from your discard pile with that +2/+2 boost. So on its own, 8-cost, 5/5 with guard, it's similar to Eclipse Baroness. Eclipse Baroness will draw you 2 reduced cards, whereas Skeletal Dragon will only draw you 1 buffed card from your graveyard. Skeletal Dragon also has the benefit of being guard, which kind of allows you to play a little more defensive as you're setting up playing those cards from your discard pile. But where I think that this card is going to be amazing, and where I think that this card is going to be able to shine, is my Graveyard Scout deck, which became a Slay Scout deck, which now with Skeletal Dragon may go back to being a Graveyard Scout deck. If you have some Brotherhood Sanctuaries on the board, and you played even 1 Skeletal Dragon, but it just gets more nuts as you play 1, 2, 3 Skeletal Dragons. But if you have Brotherhood Sanctuaries on the board, and you find any way possible to get a swing off with Falkreath Defiler, things are going to be insane. You're going to be pulling 1, 2, 3, possibly even 4 things from your discard pile with a +2/+2 or even up to a +6/+6 boost. And not only that, Falkreath Defiler can pull back a Skeletal Dragon, which can rebuff things. It's just, oh my god, This card is exactly what something that wants to interact with the graveyard has been looking for. Defiler is good, and I think that the card that I had originally cut from this list, Gravesinger, could be coming back as a result of Skeletal Dragon. And then the Blackworm Necromancers that I had cut could be coming back as well. So this is a bit of a control list already, but I could see my Slay/Graveyard Scout becoming even more control, even slower, trying to kind of fill the graveyard with creatures and then kind of just keep resin everything with Blackworm Necro, with Falkreath Defiler, with Blood Magical Lords Raised Dead, with Skeletal Dragon, just keep recycling that value and buffing them every time. I am so excited for this card. And all 5 of these new cards are incredibly unique and incredibly cool. And they're touching design spaces the game hasn't really seen yet. So I am super, super excited for where the game is heading and where the expansion seems like it could be heading. These are all 5 ridiculous cards. I don't know if the rest of the cards in the expansion can keep up this pace of holy shit, this is amazing. But I definitely hope so. And if this is any indication of how awesome the expansion is going to be, we are in for a treat. But let me know what you guys think of these 5 new release cards down below in the comments section. I'll be covering whatever new cards get released as they keep getting released, and I'm excited to kind of chat with you guys about how cool some of these new cards are. But that's going to be it for now, guys. As always, I'm Dragon Tamer Blade, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.